Hi, it's Glenn McQueenie, and welcome to my 25-minute success series podcast. This one is really a follow-up to the earlier podcast when I talked about breaking down your hourly time and the hours you spend on each part of the real estate transaction, and then really explaining that to buyers in a really big way so that they see that the value they're getting for really the money that they're not paying but that you're receiving is really nothing. So it's the more that we can big up what we do, what we actually do, the better off we're going to be, because buyers are going to go, oh my gosh, like there is actually a hard cost to this. So in this podcast, I'm going to be talking on the other side, the listing side, and that's about breaking down each step you do when you list a home, breaking it down to time, putting a dollar value, an hourly amount next to it, and then summarizing that and presenting it to your sellers. Because I think a lot of sellers are in this, they just kind of believe that their house will sell itself, that it doesn't matter which agent they get, that if the agent can put a sign on the lawn, put it on an MLS, that the market will clear because of how efficient our system is. And I wish that was true. And I think that's our big challenge in our industry, that inside our industry, we know who you list your property with could be a 2, 5, 10% swing on what you net. Because I've seen lots of people list with the wrong agent and really give their house away or not get the full market value. And I know that they think this way is because this is why sellers would interview 4 or 5 agents, and then they usually pick the agent who's going to do it for the cheapest price because they believe that my house is worth X. So it's only rational for them to follow if it's X minus 6% commission minus X minus 3.5% commission, I'm going to gain the extra 2.5%. And it's just simply not true. You know it, I know it, but we're terrible at actually explaining that to our sellers because we all show up and tell them that we're basically all going to do about the same thing. And I don't think anyone's really broken it down the way I'm going to break it down for you today, where you can actually build that value and get more full commissions and, stop taking listings, or giving your services away for free. So let's just work through the kind of hourly breakdown and the different steps that are required to actually get a house sold. So there's I think you can find this online. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it's called 180 Steps to Selling Your Home. And yeah, it's called The Real Estate Transaction in 180 Steps, What Your Realtor Does for You. And I found this, if you just Google 180 Steps Real Estate Transaction, I found this at I believe it was the Orlando Regional Realtors Association. And I think they just did a great job in actually breaking down and really even listing that there's 180 typical actions, research steps, procedures, processes, stages that a full service realtor gives you. So anywhere from the pre-listing activities to the listing appointment presentation to once the property is under contract to even getting it all onto MLS, doing all the marketing, getting all your feature sheets done, from when the offer comes in and what happens to following up and making sure it closes, to receiving home inspection reports, appraisal reports, getting ready for closing, and following up after closing. So those are the big steps, and I'm going to be just pricing the big steps right now, but know that there's actually 180 steps that are required just to get a house from when you meet that person to closing to where the sellers get paid the money. So let's start with maybe the half-hour phone call. You get referred to a seller or you meet a seller, and sometimes you're going to have either at the door or on the phone, you're going to have like the pre-listing presentation, and you're going to have almost like the pre-conversation before the appointment. And I think that can easily take anywhere like from 20 minutes to an hour, but let's just use 30 minutes. And we're going to price this at $250 an hour. And again, the reason I picked $250 an hour, and you can change these numbers depending on your marketplace, Remember, $250 is the gross fee that you're charging. It's not the net that actually comes to you. Well, many realtors are running anywhere from 30 to 60% expenses. So their true net cost back down to them is maybe 125 or 150, $175 an hour. If you're in a marketplace where prices are lower, um, you know, maybe you're going to use $100 an hour. But if that's your gross number and you're giving up 40 or $50 an hour just in your expenses, which is your splits with your brokers and your marketing costs and the phone and all the different car and all the different costs that we have in real estate, then you'll see you're going to get down to 40 or $50 an hour pretty quickly. And if you're working 2,000 hours, that's only 80 to 100,000 a year. But you can't charge $50 an hour because after your expenses, you'd be way down. So we're kind of, using almost like between what a dentist charges per hour, which I think is about $200 to get your teeth clean, and what the base new lawyer makes, which is probably $300, $350 to $400 an hour, $500. So we're just going to use $250 for this exercise. So the pre-listing is a 30-minute call, and that's $125. Then we have to do the prep work to actually go on the listing appointment. You don't just print off a CMA and run to an appointment. You usually have to do all the research on the computer. You have to look at all the comparable sales. You have to adjust the comparable sales. A lot of people get in their car and drive around and look at all the comparable sales and the comparable listings, and they look at the expireds. And that can easily be 4 hours worth of work. So that would be $1,000 of your time. Then the actual listing presentation is probably going to be an hour to 3 hours, depending. I'm going to use 2.5 because we've got some travel time to get there. You're going to do your presentation, travel time to get back. So that's another $625. Then we have probably about 10 hours of prep from when we actually get it listed to meeting the stagers or walking, doing room by room reviews, helping people really move furniture, get stuff out. We got to get our kind of marketing done. We have to get our feature sheets done. We have to get ads, Facebook targeted, whatever it is. I think it's easily 10 hours of your time just to get that done. So that's $2,500. And then what if you have to go run back and meet a stager or even pay a staging consultation? That's usually $250. Then as we get it up to more market ready, so now we have to go back and do the final walkthroughs, the final touches. We're doing the final updates. We're reviewing the CMA. We're seeing if any other listings have come out. Looking at our competition, that's easily another, you know, I think it could be easily another 10 hours of your time. That's $2,500. If you're going to be doing some pre-marketing, which is, door to door, inviting people to the open house, or if you're going to do a sneak peek open house and actually doing the open house, if you just do 2 in a weekend, most people will say it's 2 to 4, but a lot of them are doing probably 1 to 4 or 2 to 5. So that's just 3 hours per day. Plus you had to set up, plus you had to take down. So I think you could easily be at another 10 hours there just on your open house time. So there's another kind of 2,500. We have to kind of respond to all of the inquiries, whether it be buyers calling you, other agents calling you, keeping everyone up to date, following up with people. That's easily another 10 hours is $2,500. What if when you have an offer date and then you almost are going to spend sometimes half of the day or sometimes all of the day responding to agents, trying to get other agents to bring in offers, do all that stuff. Let's just say that's 5 hours. That's $1,250. Then actually doing the offer, it's going to be anywhere from 2 to 10 hours, depending on how many different offers there are. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, but there's going to be at least, I'm going to say 5 hours worth of time in there. That's $1,250. And that's if we get it sold on the first day. Then we got another 2 hours of just post-offer, the follow-up. We got to, at the end, call back all the other agents, tell them they didn't get it. And then we have to make sure whoever we accepted that they're reported to our office. We have to make sure we get the check-in on time. We got to follow up with the other agent, answer any of their questions, send it over to lawyers, get mortgages, whatever it is. That's another 2 hours of $500. And then from there until closing, I think it's easily another 10 hours of follow up, or if you got to go and show up to be there for the pre-closing inspections. If problems come up that you've got to solve, if there's any problems with the home inspection, Um, I think it's easily another 10 hours, and that's $2,500. So when I add all of this up, um, and I think I'm being pretty liberal with the time here, we get to about 72 hours of your time at $250 an hour, which is $18,000. Yeah, $18,000 is the cost of your time for every single listing you take. Yeah, is it going to be different if you've got more of a team and you're going to be leveraging off listing assistants and all those different things? Yeah, but your costs are still the same because you got to pay those people. Maybe you're not doing it, you're leveraging off their time, but you're still going to have some fixed costs of running it. I think the fixed cost of just even having any listing just to keep it every month is probably $1,500 to $2,000 just because it just costs time and money just for you to keep it going. So if you're in a marketplace where your average sale price is 400,000, your average commission is 10 grand. When you look at these numbers, you go, "Wow, I'm losing money on every single listing I take." And I don't know if that's exactly true because you might be down more at the $100 an hour activity. So now it's $7,200. But still, at $100, 72 hours, $7,200, it doesn't leave a lot of margin for you because you still have to pay splits and have all those costs. So the reason I wanted to kind of break this down is the more that we can actually put this on one piece of paper, list that there's 180 activities, break it down in front of our sellers, give it to them in the pre-listing package or at the listing presentation. I would do it beforehand because as I said, or as I've said many times, you always want to let the data do the heavy lifting. It's like, let the CMA get them priced right. Let the other sales affect their perception. You standing and arguing with them or justifying what you need to do verbally by conversation is not usually the best winning formula. When you can reduce this down to paper and people believe it and they read it and they actually see what you're doing, you can actually, say to somebody, okay, well, now here's the deal. Here's my costs. And what I would argue for most realtors is what they should be doing on listing presentations is having three commission platforms. This is nothing new. People have talked about it before. But what if we kind of broke it down even more? Like looked at one of those for some of the for sale by owner companies, or some of those where they've got just a set fee, to list it. It doesn't matter if it sells or not. That's the fee you're going to pay. What would your fee be just to do the offer? Like, what if you were an agent that all you did right now is you just negotiated offers? So let's say they weren't even listed. Let's say it was just two neighbors who wanted to buy each other's property. And I mean, I think you could charge 1% just to do the negotiations on that. I think that's a reasonable fee that most buyers and sellers would pay you. And if they split it where it was a 0.5% each, it's really not that much to get a good agreement together and make sure that it's going to be safe and get it to closing. So that's breaking down just one step of what you do when you list a property. So couldn't you have like a tiered program where you had, I just do this, and maybe it's 4% or 5%. Or you can get this, which is the 72-hour list that I'm giving you right now, and that's 6%. And if you want this, like the platinum premium package, that's going to be 8%, and you're going to get the staging and this, and I'll dance on your roof and whatever. I think when you can give consumers three choices, they typically will pick the middle. Because the first one they won't get any value, the second one they'll get tons of value, and the third one they'll get so much value they don't see it's that necessary, so they always pick the middle price. And if you don't believe this is true, just realize you get hoodwinked by this every time. Whether it be your cell phone plan, if you start looking at the service fees, or if you start signing up to websites for different services, online databases, they're the masters of three pricing, like triple pricing, where they go, one is the basic, you get nothing, it's free. Two, for just a little bit more money, you get all of this, or this, which is the professional premium platinum edition, you're going to get, this. Most people will always pick the middle one. They'll always pick the middle one because that's where they see the most value. So that's what I love about doing this exercise is you actually kind of break down the 180 steps of what you actually do for your clients, and really, I would say, big up or just be honest. Like, this is actually what needs to be done. Like, if I'm selling your house, I can't skip doing the CMA. I can't skip talking to you on the phone beforehand. I can't skip prepping your house for the market. I can't skip open houses unless you choose not to do them. I can't skip feature sheets. I can't skip updating it onto the MLS. I can't skip following up to all the other agents. I can't skip offers. I can't skip following up after offers. And I can't really skip the follow up from when we've sold your house all the way to closing. I mean, these are just the basic root things that need to be done in a transaction in order for a transaction to occur. So I think what I love about this whole concept is it's when we just break everything down and we actually put a price towards it. I think we're actually becoming more honest and more transparent with the consumers here, where it's like, this is my actual cost to do this. Now, I know you think that we get paid way too much money, that we get that anybody can sell your house, that it's going to, like, maybe, when I'm teaching, and especially on the listing side, and I always ask people, how much time does it take for you to actually sell a property? Like, if it's priced right and shows, well, how much of it your time? And inevitably, someone will say 3 hours, but inevitably the room average will be between 10 and 20 hours. What's what realtors actually think is the time. So if they think that's the time, how can they really explain that to the seller and justify a 2.5% or 3% commission? When you break it down and you actually go, you know what, it's 72 hours of my time. And that's just without any expenses. That's just the labor cost. I still have all of the rest of the expenses that I have to get done in order for me to actually earn a living, which they don't really care about, or build wealth for the future, which they don't care about, but you should. There's a certain profit margin that you need to be able to make on every transaction in order to build wealth for the future. And I know that most agents are terrible at this because, in my 29 years of the business, I've still only been at one realtor's retirement party. One realtor's retirement party. How many have you been at? Yeah, I bet you can't think of one that you've been to, or maybe you've been to one. So what a shame that people are working in this industry hard. I mean, realtors work very hard. We have two full-time jobs. We're expected to be in the office from 9 to 5. That's when our clients are at their office, and then we're expected to work evenings and weekends. So we're doing a double job. And our net result for a double job is people trying to beat you down on your commission. They don't see the perceived value, and that's not their fault. It's your fault. It's my fault. It's all of our fault. It's our industry's fault because we don't do a great job of building up the perceived value of what we're truly worth to our consumers. So, you know, if you want to change the game, why don't you start listing the 180 steps that you actually do when you're listing a property, and just break it down and start charging for it. Is there anything wrong with doing a listing retainer where it's 1% retainer? That's what the hard cost is. At least 1% is what it's going to cost me just to get my machinery in. I mean, lawyers, don't do anything without retainers. And so you might say, oh, well, people don't, that's not our industry. I'm like, yeah. So what do you want to do? Do you want to still play the game that everyone else is playing? Or do you actually want to take a stand for what you're actually worth? Because 1% is barely covering your costs. I don't, if your average sale price is, 400,000 and you're making 10 grand and you've got a $4,000 retainer and you're putting in 72 hours worth of work, or even 60 if you don't have to do the offer, you're still, making like $70 an hour, which is nothing. And that's why so many agents never retire, because they just make nothing a lot, or they make a bunch of money in waves and then they kind of, okay, I get caught up on my taxes and CRA and debt and all that stuff. When the truth is, if you really want to build wealth, you need to kind of triple, um, the amount of money you make to cover your lifestyle costs. So if you're living at $10,000 a month is your hard cost to run your family, you need to get up to 30,000 because 10,000 got to cover your lifestyle. The other 10,000 starts going to debt, and the other 10,000 goes to investments. But we know there's tax in there, so the real game of real estate is if you want to build wealth in it, you have to triple the amount of money that you're making every month just to get prepped for retirement and take care of your family. But maybe that will be the subject of my next podcast. Actually, how much money you really need to actually build wealth, buy investment properties, set yourself up for the future. I think I just got a new idea. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Take care. Have an awesome spring market. This is the time to get out there and make as much money as possible. And remember, if you work flat out right now for the next 6 to 7 weeks, it'll set you up to have some great rest and recovery time and spend time with people you really care about. So have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.